For the opening concert of our 10th anniversary season, we've picked two monumental works of two colossal symphony writers, Beethoven from the 19th century and Dmitri Shostakovich from the 20th century. Both works were performed by the Claflin Symphony very early in our history, 2001 and 2002 respectively, and those performances still stand out amongst our recorded archives as stellar renditions by that then very young orchestra. Though separated by over a century, both works speak to and evoke the very essence of the human spirit and our ability to overcome hardships and challenges as we travel the path of life as a community. Of course, everyone is familiar with the opening notes of Beethoven's Fifth, which have sometimes been thought of as the sound of fate knocking at the door. Beethoven's Fifth, which starts in a dark minor key with its volleying of the four-note theme throughout the first movement, then gives way to a peaceful pastoral slow movement, evoking the nobility of the human spirit in an almost processional manner, followed by a robust scherzo movement, which then leads to the ultimate transformation into a major key and ultimate triumph. Over 100 years later, Shostakovich can be thought of as the pinnacle of Russian mastery of the symphony form that Beethoven changed in a most revolutionary way. Both composers were socially and politically aware and making musical statements on the times they live in. In fact, Beethoven originally intended to call his Third Symphony, the one that blew symphonic form apart forever, the Napoleonic Symphony, but tore up the dedication when Napoleon made himself Emperor of Europe. Shostakovich lived during the reign of terror of Joseph Stalin, and lived, in fact, with a packed suitcase under his bed in case he received word that the KGB was on the way to drag him off to the gulags. His Fifth Symphony was initially embraced by Stalin as an evocation of the triumph of the socialist spirit over all other forms of societies. Only long after the despot's death did Shostakovich reveal in an interview to the Western media that he had written it in defiance of the Soviet system and as an evocation of the triumph of the human spirit over all other forms of totalitarianism. The opening motif of Shostakovich's First Symphony I liken to a 20th century version of Beethoven's Fifth, and his development of that motif is very much like Beethoven's, with the motif volleyed back and forth across the orchestra, building to a violent climax that gives voices to the millions of victims of the Soviet purges. As the violent climax subsides into a resigned meditative ending, the second movement is an almost grotesque waltz, as if Shostakovich is making fun of those portly leaders standing in a row atop Lenin's tomb for May Day parades. One thinks of George Orwell's Animal Farm and Napoleon the Pig as Stalin, and wonders how they could not have seen that Shostakovich was making fun of them. The third movement of the symphony is one of the most beautiful and haunting slow movements in all symphonies, with meditative and searching woodwind solos evoking a human soul struggling to break free of the bonds of tyranny and float up to a better utopian existence, free of terror and control. The final movement of Shostakovich's Fifth Symphony returns to violence and struggle, the final and ultimate Armageddon battle for the soul. After a prolonged struggle, the movement subsides into a linking transition, pensive and searching, and in one moment, with the change of one note in the harmony, a ray of new hope emerges. A ray of sunshine begins to warm through the orchestra as we build to the final, exhilarating, triumphant, and exultant ending. Join us at Claflin Hill for the opening of our 10th anniversary season as we celebrate the triumph of our own musical and cultural spirit, given birth to here in Milford in the year 2000, and supported by an ever-growing multitude of humans who believe, along with Beethoven and Shostakovich, in the triumph of the human spirit. Beethoven and Shostakovich, two giants who have left us a legacy and universal lessons that speak to us all, even today, in our modern time. I'm Paul Serpine, and I look forward to seeing you on November 7th at Milford Town Hall.